All right. I am here with Giselle Galper, and I'm really excited about this conversation because I think Giselle, there's a one thing, well, there's probably a lot of things that we have in common, but one of the big ones is I went from corporate America, and the thing that everyone in the family and all of my friends thought, wow, you're doing a good thing, you're set for life, to I don't know if you call it jumping off the cliff, but saying, let's start something very, very different. And it takes a ton of courage. So our theme is under the umbrella of who are you becoming? Our theme is building courage, and moments of courage. And how do you have courage or find courage when it might not be that easy? So Giselle, tell us just a little bit about your story, jumping off that cliff, if you would.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. So like you, I was in corporate America. I was a lawyer. I was a general counsel for 17 years. And during the last 10 years of those 17 years, I became more and more passionate about this idea of, originally it was just women and career and how women get stumped or women drop out of the law. I was a lawyer and I saw my law school classmates or young associates stop working, leave the law. And I felt like, I'd gone to Stanford Law School. Here was this golden ticket that I'd been given. And I felt like these people can make such a difference. Why do people leave? So I started studying career. And when I had the opportunity to do something that I wanted to do, like just for me, not working for anyone else, after 17 years, I left this great job. And like you, that took courage to leave a great job of 17 years and say, I want to do something where I make a difference. Then I hunted that down and I kept coming back to this issue of women in career. And I got this, what then people thought, and some still do think, is a crazy idea of building an app that didn't require a coach that could help people with their careers. And just like a lawyer, I'd spent a long time as a lawyer. I wrote a 50-page document. I still have it. Sometimes I look at it about what this app would be. And then I actually even wrote like a script, like how it would work in words, how the person would experience it, like a movie script.
Wow.
It was crazy. Nobody would read it, not even So I was.
And your app is called Chea Seed, right? Chea Seed, and it helped. And I love what you just said. It's kind of a coach without having a coach, right? It coaches people towards, would you say, their potential?
I think their potential, and also more than potential, their career satisfaction, because we may have potential for things that don't give us that feeling of flow or happiness, being in the zone. And so me, I had done a little sort of free coaching with millennials using design your life thinking and applying principles of creative confidence. And I realized that so many people are stuck. They're stuck in jobs where they're not happy, and they're doing it. They need the paycheck, and there's nothing wrong with needing a paycheck, but often it's just a small tweak to the job or the circumstance that can make a huge difference. And maybe that is reaching our potential. I don't know.
Right. But so I love it. So you said 17 years as a lawyer, but for 10 of them, you were thinking, you had this, I guess it's an uncomfortable feeling of, I have to do something different. I have to do something, I have to take a leap.
No, it was really more, I started giving talks to women. So as a general counsel, woman general counsel of a medium-sized company, you get asked by law firms or accounting firms, panels, hey, would you give a talk? But I was an accountant and then a tax lawyer before I became a general counsel. And I couldn't do those talks without doing homework. I needed it. I didn't want to just give my opinion. I mean, I had opinions, I have tons of them, but I wanted to do the research. So I started doing the research about 7 years into being a general counsel. And also at that point, I had 3 young boys, 7, 5, and 2. And I was really obsessed with gender because I had been an only girl. And the boys were always pushing back.
Right.
It was, and I don't know if it was our parenting style, but the more I read about gender and career, it dawned on me that, all the preparation that young women do in school wasn't the preparation they really needed for work.
I love that. I love that. You know, I have two daughters and I grew up in a house of just three boys. I have two brothers. No, you know, and my first daughter, I remember her first ballet recital thinking, this is different. You know, this is, and I started reading sports coaches who coach women primarily. Anson Dorrance is one of my favorite, UNC soccer. And he said, I had to teach them that they create bonds, but they don't necessarily compete the same way. They don't want to, you know, beat their friend in practice. And I love what what you decided to pursue. That's brilliant. I love it. And that was for 10 years of your law career.
10 years. I wasn't thinking about building a product. I was just giving these talks, doing more research. And then I had this very lucky life event that some people have in Silicon Valley, and my husband's company sold. And I had worked, you know, all through kids. I can't remember when I didn't work or go to school basically in my life, and or work and go to school in college and in high school. And it was the time to say, okay, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I want to do something where I make a difference. And I didn't come to this app as the first step. I gave some talks. I did some work for people. And what I realized is there are so many great coaches and speakers. The problem is that you have to stick with career. Career is a behavior. It's intentional. And so I started looking around and I found habit trackers that could maybe be adapted. But what I realized is that what I felt the world needed, which seems so presumptuous now that I know how hard it is to do, just how steep of a climb that I'm making, is that the world needed something where you could easily learn by tapping through, and it was personalized, where you could see dashboards of how you were doing, and you could at a glance see things in your career, just like Mint does for money, Noom does for diet, and MyFitnessPal does for fitness. So this was my big idea, but let me tell you, this is not, it's not a small project. And, you know, it wasn't like we're the Zuckerbergs, the Chan Zuckerbergs, you know, we were comfortable, but we're not so comfortable that I could just go fund a startup. And so it's been a very scrappy process, much scrappier than anything I've done before, for sure.
And in the beginning, you said it took courage to start doing that. It wasn't an overnight thing, it sounds like. Like, let's start this.
No.
Yeah.
So not overnight. So a year and a half in the making, the 50-page document. So if you know, people have ideas and they say, I can't get it started. Well, Giselle took a year and a half researching and writing this document. Then a little bit over 3 years ago, I had my 25th, showing my age, law school reunion at Stanford. And it is literally 2 miles from my house. So I was going, but I wasn't, you know, what was I going to say to people? What are you doing? Oh, writing this 50-page treatise, you know? So I decided this was a group of really successful people. Successful people show up at reunions. And I would tell every single person, I was basically going to shame myself into action because I couldn't act. Every single person I met that I was building this career app. And we did it. And, you know, I still remember there was a lot of alcohol, being drunk, and I had, you know, probably just a glass or two. I'm not much of a drinker, but a lot of people nodded and were very friendly, kind of like we do in social situations. But a few people really grabbed onto the idea. And it wasn't like they said, here, Giselle, here's a check, or I'm going to help you. But their excitement and their curiosity in what I was doing, it wasn't the shame that moved people. It was those few people. And what I realized probably 6 months after that, because I did get started then, I hired some consultants trying to learn how to build an app. I really spent the whole of 2019 just kind of studying how to build an app. Because I'd written this document, but I didn't know what to do. It was like, you know, I'd drawn house plans, but I didn't have a contractor or a team. And so, yeah, it was very presumptuous. And I learned how to wireframe. I learned to talk the talk. It was a slow process, but along the way, I remembered that excitement from my reunion. And I would just tell people and ask people. And through that process, I feel like I've had so many amazing supporters, women and men. And I've gotten a few funders through the process, not a ton. I've had VCs in the work for the future space tell me, Giselle, it's a noble idea, but it's hard.
Yeah.
And,
Wow.
VCs are looking for unicorns.
Right.
But,
right.
When you talk about courage, like today, everybody thinks, oh, like the Peloton, right? The Peloton is so successful. I remember listening to a talk where I think they said they talked to 1,000 funders. It's hard.
Yeah.
But
along this journey, when you must have moments where you're thinking, I don't know if I can do this, or I don't know if I have what it takes, or it's just too big. Do you have moments like that?
I'd be lying if I said I didn't have moments like that.
Yeah.
The courage is picking yourself back up.
What do you do? How do you do that? How do you personally do that? Do you have a
mantra? I think about the people that in the testers that we've helped with the app, and I look at the potential. So most of our testers have been young women. Some have been what I call relaunchers, people who come back to their career. There have been some men, but uniformly, we're learning that when people are using the app in testing, they feel like they're boosting their outcomes and confidence. And I'm one of those people, my language of love for giving is helping people. I was a general counsel for a reason. It was a really good fit. So just the notion, if we are horribly unsuccessful, we could help 10,000 people realistically with our app. That would be a failure. But helping 10,000 people with their careers is like a gift. So that's what I think of. And I also think that, now I have a small team, let's face it, and they are now dependent on me to get up and do this. So I put on my big girl pants and do it. But it is hard. It is hard to do something where you're constantly saying, first of all, it's never what you want it to be because you don't have the money or the time or the knowledge. You say, I have so little money and time, and look at the mistakes I've made. Oh my gosh, I wish I could get a do-over, but there are no do-overs. And then, probably most importantly, you always get negative feedback. I mean, it's not that I don't get positive feedback. And at first, I think I had a defensive shell about that negative feedback, whether it was my pitch or it was the product. But what I've learned is that, and this is a good skill from being a lawyer. So if people are saying, oh, I went to law school and I want to do something else, what skills do I have? Note-taking. Note-taking has saved me because I can externally be positive and say yes, and take it in, even though inside I'm thinking, oh, this is awful, and I'm shrinking. But I can go back to those notes after I've done my belly breathing or walked around the block or whatever it takes. And I can say, oh, that's what they were saying. Or I can piece together several sets of notes. And so I go back to my notes on a regular basis because you hear different things. I don't know if you've read this book, Hooked by Nir Eyal.
No, I haven't. No. Well, what's a takeaway from it for you?
The Hooked is has 4 takeaways about how you, in a positive way, hook people into an app. And one of the most important takeaways is that people have to get variable responses. Now, this is not as easy as it sounds. They have to anticipate that something good will happen, but it doesn't always happen in that way. And there's a guy at Stanford, you can tell I'm kind of a reader of these things. He does work on perks. And for example, let's say you're lucky enough to stay at the Ritz or some other fancy hotel, and they put chocolates on the bed every night.
Right.
But you look more forward to it.
Expected response, right?
Chocolates, right? Maybe you don't like all the chocolates, but it's so fun to wonder what chocolate will be.
What will be, right.
And that is true also in the app. But I have now read it 3 times, Hooked. And this last time when I went through it, all these bells went on. and I've taken notes every time. So I was able to go back and see my notes. Some of them were even in the book, and realized I had understood him, but not really in the context of what I was doing. And just now, after reading the book 3 times, and probably I'll read it a 4th time in 6 months, and I'll say, oh my gosh. So having that courage to really listen and change.
I love that. There's so much that you just touched on that I want to ask a few questions about it. One of them is this. I did a TED Talk on creativity, and in the area of creativity, usually there's this fear of trying something that I don't know if it'll work. Right. And you say, give people a surprise, give some feedback, some surprise, like that chocolate, but it changes. You could do that in relationships, right? I mean, you have a friend, a family member, or one of your kids. You could apply that there, but it would take some courage to say, let me try this. Let me try surprising my kid with, this weekend we're doing this, and they might go, but I had something going on, right? We immediately, I don't know if you have it too, but we tend to have these little pop-up doubts somewhere in our mind that says, I don't know if that's going to work out.
For sure. Everybody has that.
Yeah.
It's absolutely. And now one of the things he talks about in the book is, for example, when you go on Pinterest or Twitter, you go hoping to find something, but that there will be lots of things you won't find. So he calls that's the hunter looking for variability. There are different types of variability that you could get, but it's actually the anticipation, the hope that you'll find it, but you might not get it, which is why we enjoy, I think, getting to people. I hadn't thought about this. People who have this spontaneity. Oh, Jane, she's always so fun. You don't know what you're going to get, but it's kind of fun. You might not want to see Jane.
And you don't know what they're going to say either, right? You have people in your life that you have no idea. They're going to say something, and you're going to look at them and think, did you really say that? Right? And it's
it's fun.
That's. But becoming one of those people, that takes some courage. Telling a different story, telling a different joke.
Getting out of that a lot. Comfort zone is always hard. And one of the things in the app is telling different stories about yourself and feeling authentic, having the courage to know the story for the situation and be willing to tell it about what you want. So important. It does take courage to, whatever word you use, if you're using Sheryl Sandberg's word, lean in, be intentional, show up. It takes courage. It doesn't matter that you're an assistant product manager at a company and you want to be a product manager. It takes courage to put that out there to the world. It takes courage.
Yeah, I like that. So a while back, I asked you the question of what do you do when you don't have that courage? And one of the things you mentioned is go and tell people, get people that will make you uncomfortable. Yeah. Right? You essentially told people that you wouldn't want to see them at the 30-year reunion and say, I just threw in the towel, right? It sounds like that's
exactly.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Do you still use that kind of a strategy sometimes?
I use it all the time. And, and I do it for a few reasons. First of all, it's something we talk about in the app, is that you have to pitch. It's something I did before, but not with something as big as the app. But also, you never know who might help you. And I don't do it because, I'm always looking for help. But I'll give you an example. Someone recently asked me to help their friend. And I really love this person because she is a big contributor in our community. I'm not actually friends with her, but I love how she contributes to our local community, and I would do something for her. So I helped out her friend. Her friend is a lawyer looking to get into the alcohol beverage business and didn't have that much experience. So I talked to her friend for maybe an hour and a half. And then her friend says to me, hey, I'd like to know about what you're doing. And so I told her in the short way. And it turns out she's introduced me to 3 amazing people. And here I was thinking I was doing the favor. I was the helper. And so you just don't know where that's going to be. And also, it's important to keep the momentum, right? You said, how do you get back up? Well, the more people you tell, the more people there's going to be another meeting point or whatever, whether they text me and say, hey, how's it going with that app? Or I run into them, which is much rarer right now, at an event. That does push me forward. I admit it. I don't want to see that person in another year and tell them I threw in the towel. Now, if we run out of money and we can't make it happen, that's okay. But just throwing in the towel, that's not okay.
Yeah. I like that a lot. You mentioned momentum. I use the phrase all the time, don't lose the momentum game, or we got to figure out how to win the momentum game. But it's actually easier to keep the momentum than to regain it. Right. Absolutely. So it sounds like you've got some strategies to keep the momentum as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of those is, in addition to telling people, is literally one of the tech processes are these sprints, these short development cycles. They're really quick and they're very foreign to a lawyer, because the idea is that you put stuff together and it's not its best shot at first. You're kind of building the bones of something, and then you do it again and you iterate and you iterate. And one thing that I saw is in the beginning, I wasn't all that comfortable with the tech. We use this tool called GitHub, which is very common. And I use the issues and we manage these sprints. But what I saw is that I can take my lawyer thinking to better manage these sprints, to keep momentum and to really make sure every iteration has a theme. And then everybody on the team knows the theme and what we're going for, why we're doing it. And so that also helps us keep momentum, because it was dragging a little bit. And I couldn't figure out why. And I thought, we need stories. We need to all be excited about the exact same story about what we're doing weeks. So that also helps us keep going.
I like that a lot. That's beautiful. It's funny. I had a business with two other investors years ago, and we were trying to understand that, because all three of us were successful in the corporate world. And a lot of times I meet people who, if you were a good student, that's nice, but you don't like failure. You tend not to. I don't like getting a B or a C. I like getting A. It's like, tell me what I'm supposed to do. I do it. I get a good grade. Way to go. And in business, very often, and in life, really, it's almost what you just said of, how can I get version 1 out there? Right. So these group of investors and we would sit down and say, okay, let's make version 1.0. And we started calling all of our, how we hire 1.0, and how we train and what our experience, customer experience should be like, version 1.0. And we'd try to get to 1.1 like that. And it was really just tricking ourselves to do stuff that wasn't perfect.
Exactly.
But it's this psychology, right? What would you say to somebody? Because there's going to be somebody listening to this or watching this that's thinking like, I don't want to make version 1.1 and 2. I like making it really good round 1. What would you tell that person?
I would tell that person, you will learn so much from your quote unquote mistakes in 1.0. 1.2 will be so much better.
Yeah.
Because when you put it out there, you get feedback that you never would have dreamed of. And even if you just show it to a few people 1.0, you're going to get feedback. You don't have to listen to it all. You have to hear it. By listening, you don't have to do everything in the feedback. You have to use your own experience and apply what you know about your vision. But get 1.0 out there. Also, it's so much faster.
Yeah.
To go from 1.0 to 1.1 to 1.2 than it is to 1.2.
Right.
Directly.
I love it. And that goes with what we were talking about a few minutes ago about keeping momentum, right? If you say, hey, I know I'm making version 1.1 or 1.3, I'm going to make 5 versions of this minimum. So let's just, that helps you keep instead of saying, I don't know what to do or how this should work. I like that a lot. You mentioned getting negative feedback and how, did you like that when you were maybe a teenager or in college or?
I, like you, I was an A student. I was first in my college class, something I don't talk about much. I was the A girl. And so anybody who's this, who knows me will already know that. And so negative feedback was really hard for me to take. And my first job was an analyst at a consulting firm. And I remember I made a mistake on a project and a partner yelled at me.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was really a lot to take in.
Mm-hmm.
And, she was right. I'd screwed up. I would never personally yell at someone for that. But I wasn't used to that, that kind of negative feedback. And that is one of the things in the app we talk about. Be curious, and we give curiosity scripts for, I'd like to do better next time. I'm curious. How could I do better? Don't pull back from it, because we can all get better. If you're the type of motivated person who cares about negative feedback, then you can get better.
Yeah.
And that's really that same process of momentum. It's the same thing. If you're an associate at a law firm and someone tells you, I don't like this memo, in very general terms, they don't give you specificity, dig in and get the specifics, right? You cannot improve without those specifics. And there is going to be negative feedback. There is no doubt.
Yeah. I love that. A lot of our audience are, they're from all over the place, but a lot of times they're in leadership positions, but they tend to like having things they can do in work and life. And one of the things I keep thinking about is you could give people guidance on getting feedback, not just for building an app or customer service, but for relationships or leadership. Like I ran that meeting yesterday. How do you think it really went? Right.
Well, that's my dream of Chea Seed. We have some of that in there. We have maximize your internship, first 100 days on the job. We're for the early career professional. We have hard conversations that are about money, like, asking for a pay raise or job offer, which are pretty standard things. But we have scripts and guides and this kind of interactive thing that helps you set your mindset. But my dream is to be able to say, I gave a presentation and I know it didn't go 100%. I want to talk to my boss about it. What do I say? So we have general language about that. But I think being able to come in with the mindset of curiosity is always the lifesaver. And whenever you're curious about people, and what they think, it helps. So as a general counsel, I tend to talk a lot, but I did learn to listen over time. And it was a skill that I had to build. But listening to people about, they're like, I don't like that contract form you gave me, or the process is really cumbersome. Many times they just need to talk. And then they may say something that you realize that they don't like this one section of your contract, but they're going crazy about the whole thing. And it's something you can tweak, or you give them control over something, or at least you can hear them. So when you're curious, when you come in with curiosity, which feels like such a Zen thing, it's work. But when a boss is curious, or an employee,
people tell them stuff.
Curious, right? One question to ask your boss, right? So many times junior people are so focused on their own career, they forget to ask, what can I do that can make you more successful in your role? That when you come into a job,
I love this.
Yeah, but it's so important, because think about what is most important to your boss. I mean,
you don't always know, but they certainly want to be successful, right?
They want to be successful in their own role. And that might be the team is successful, but it might also be they get an opportunity to speak at the industry presentation. It might be that they have great reviews from their employees. Unless you ask, you won't know. And that is so true. We assume so much about other people in our relationships, like you said, our employees, our bosses. But in my research, the one thing I've learned is just being curious and asking is the most powerful tool that we can bring to our lives.
Give me kind of a picture of the dream that you have for this app. Who will it impact? How will it impact them? What does it look like in 5 or 10 years? What are people saying?
Well, even not only for the app, but just for people generally, I hope there will be more apps like this, challenging us and taking different takes on the problem. But the idea is that Chea Seed is a career, we call it a career fitness tracker, a career track. The idea is you're adding in your accomplishments, your shout outs, the information you learn when you're asking these questions, whether it's about the marketplace, different things about your career path. You have your career plan there. And it is giving you dashboards and intelligence to just slightly pivot. Just possibly take that class on Coursera or LinkedIn or ask your boss for training. But, my view is that if people would simply, literally just add in one accomplishment per week, it could even be personal, just one a week, that's 50 a year. And then we make it possible that you can create collections like in Visco or Pinterest. So you can organize them. And then the idea is by the end of May or so, you'll be able to share these with a link with someone for feedback. And then that might be a coach, or it might be a career club or a mentor. But basically, career coaches cost an average of $200 an hour in the US. The average professional woman in the US makes $60,000 a year. The man's $70,000 a year. We can't get all this coaching 365 days a year, 52 weeks of the year. Maybe lucky people get 12 weeks. But if we can extend the learning from talks and coaches to the whole year, I actually see, and this might be crazy, that it's not that not every person will advance so much faster, but some will, especially people who do this early in career.
Oh, yeah.
They will be more satisfied. So we actually have a satisfaction tracker in our app that it sends you a push notification and you score yourself and say what you're doing. Then you get a dashboard of what's high and low. And the idea is we encourage you, obviously, to get rid of the low first and then add more high. And that's the goal, right?
I love it. Yeah,
really
that's beautiful.
Much more personal than just career advancement. It's have that career that you dream of, design your career, get the career you want. And there are motivated people who can make these shifts to do this. Some people will not do this, but my hope is that for some people, they will really step up and start tracking their careers. And it's very little effort. They say, just a small pitch for the app, that it takes about 4 to 8 hours to organize yourself for your performance review if your company has those performance discussions reviews.
Okay.
But you think if you just write down once a week, you add it with the plus button into an app, it takes you 30 seconds.
You'd have the whole thing done. Yeah.
It's really there for you. And then you can do so much more with it. So I think this notion of career tracking is so important. And yeah, you can use a spreadsheet, right? Or you could write it in notes. But in the end, having it somewhere that gives you dashboards and insights and nudges you along, that's what we do with fitness and health. So we should do it with career. So that's the dream.
No kidding. I love it. I think it's great. It reminds me, people can find out more about this at, is it cheaseed.com? That's the best place for them to go? Or
but it's Chea with an E. So I tell people it's for empowerment, energy, or you can remember the acronym Career Helping Expert App.
Career Helping Expert App, CHEA, cheaseed.com. I love that. That's great. It makes me think, Giselle, of almost, I don't know if you know the movies, The Social Dilemma. But of imagine if you took the algorithm that YouTube has on you or Google takes, and you said, let's make that algorithm designed to help you become in your career, I guess, but really you become who you're capable of becoming.
Well, that would be the dream, right? To take machine learning to what you're putting in for a partner company like PayScale and LinkedIn and Coursera and say, hey, look what you're doing and look what you like. What if you did these things? How amazing would that be? So that's the big dream.
Well, I want to thank you for this conversation and encourage people to check out what you're doing, but and just thank you for having the courage to not just let this stay a seed of an idea, just stay at someday, I wish I would have. So thank you so much. I love it. I love it. I hope I wish you the best. And it seems like you're chasing it. And I hope people hear this and think, I want to get involved in this. And I have something I've been chasing. Maybe I'll get started. Maybe I'll go and do something. Get
started, right? 1.0, Jonathan's 1.0, and then 1.1, and show it to people and embrace the feedback.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Giselle. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye.